Hi, I'm John. I would like to share my story of how I was healed on a 21 day and night fast. Yes, healed. Now, first of all, I want you to realize I am not here giving you medical advice. I am not a medical professional. I'm not a doctor or anything like that. I am only sharing my story and what happened to me. So, no, this is not medical advice. It is my story, and hopefully, it can inspire someone else that resonates with it. And fasting. Now, fasting for me, I guess because I was raised in the spiritual environment after I had my born again experience, fasting for me meant no food, no food, no food. We do realize that today fasting has taken on various like meanings and definition. Some people fast from shopping, fast from wine, fast from certain types of foods, and all of that's wonderful. But what I'm talking about here is a fasting, abstaining from food completely. And this was a 21 day and night fast. Now, fasting was not uncommon for me. I like to say I lived a fasted life since my born again experience, and I got introduced to that probably a couple of years after, I had my Christ encounter. And I never forget how it happened. I was at this church and I had gotten there late, had just started visiting this church, this one church. It was a small, kind of a storefront church where they met in like kind of used to be a mechanic's garage. And, but the power of God was in that place, right? So I walked in and the pastor, James Sultan, his name was, he was teaching on fasting. And he quoted something I had never heard and never heard anyone say. And I came in as he said, he quoted Isaiah chapter 58, where it says, "And your health shall spring forth speedily." And I'm going, what? And he began to elaborate on how a person could be healed through fasting. And that just kind of stuck in my mind. So the church was known for fasting in those days. And so I became accustomed to fasting, 2 to 3 days a week. That was normal for me. And when I say 2 to 3 days a week, that means 24-hour days. And that means, drinking water. Now, I do understand that there are several types of fasts that people do. I'm going to only tell you about, my experience. There's intermittent fast that people do. There's partial fast with maybe juice or broth that people do. There's the water fast that some people do. There is the dry fast. I've been on those also. And then there's the hard dry fast, And so I want to just kind of share my experience of what happened to me and how I received a miracle due to a 21 day and night fast. Now I'm going to fast forward. Okay. I used to do a lot of missionary work in various countries and traveling in evangelical work, prophetic work. And I spent quite a bit of time in Siberia, northwestern Siberia in Russia. And I didn't know it at the time that there were a lot of leaky nuclear reactors there. And so when the Most High sent me there, because I didn't know anyone there, I remember so clearly when he first spoke to me and said that go east of the Ural Mountains, like into Asia part. And I didn't know anyone there. I had been to Moscow many times, had been to travel in the South and did a lot of ministry there. And just within days after that, one of my interpreter calls me and says, "Hey, there are people in Western Siberia, just across the Ural Mountains, one of the largest churches there, and they've heard about your meeting. So can you come?" And long story short, I agreed to come. And the people were like, we saw a lot of wonderful things happen. There were a lot of miraculous things happening. There was a high rate of cancers and tumors and stuff. And then it was explained to me that most Western ministers don't go there because of all of the leaky nuclear reactors. And they made jokes that you're going to glow green by the time you get back to America. I didn't care, right? Because I know that the Most High had sent me there, right? And I had an experience of traveling through a lot of the what was called, is probably still called prison cities. And these were these huge prison camps where many of the believers, Christians, and people that didn't like the government, didn't rebel against communism and all of that, they were sent to for concentration camps. I got a chance to go into many of those places to minister. Fast forward again, many years later, here I am. I was in a situation, and I had had X-rays and a physical done. Just a year and a half before I came up with a diagnosis, right? And so everything was okay, everything was clean. But I was in a very toxic relationship. And I need you to hear this because, there could be things happening within your body that's basically not really manifesting yet. And all it takes is a lot of stress and toxicity that can cause things to just blow up within you. And so, I am rather, healthy for most of my life, have a good diet, been a vegetarian for most of my life, and, rarely ever got sick, right? And so finally, I was like just completely exhausted, it felt like, and I wasn't sleeping very much, which wasn't that abnormal for me. And but I noticed I couldn't sit up in my chair properly at my desk while I'm preparing or for messages or in meditation or whatever I'm doing. I had to kind of lean back because there was this pressure right here, like, in my near my upper stomach area, right? And I didn't know what it was, and I could feel pressure in my chest and everything. After multiple weeks, a friend of mine says, you need to go and check it out. He happened to be a medical doctor, and he kept telling me, you need to at least go and check it out, and that way we'll know exactly how to pray. Long story short, I go to emergency, and it was a very hot day in July. Here in the Phoenix area, right? And I go and I'm sweating while I'm standing there in line. And I tell them I'm having this like pressure in my chest area and here. So they immediately thought I was having a heart attack, right? So they kind of rushed me into the room. They did the EKG and everything. And so my T waves, I think that's what it's called, they don't go up like most people. That's another testimony for another story. But mine go down, which really alerted them, right? And so that caused so the room filled up with doctors and trainees or whoever, nurses and everything. And they were trying to figure out. And I told them, I says, I'm not having a heart attack. It's not my heart. I says, and they said, but your T waves are down. I says, I know. I've been told that like over the years. And I just made a joke. I'm not from this world. And then they all looked around at me. I said, okay, I better clarify that before they, put me in the psych ward or something, right? And so long story shorter, they admitted me. They did more tests and they did X-ray and they found a huge tumor, right at the head of my pancreas there. And it was pressing on a very important artery. And they told me that at any time you could have a blood clot and die, And they says, not only that, you have other smaller tumors and you have nodules throughout your thoracic system. And you have lesions on your kidney, on your liver. And the doctor said to me, he says, have you ever been exposed to a lot of radiation? And I had to say no. I felt I had to say no to stop that train of thought. Some of you may understand what I am saying. So I had to say no. And so immediately they wanted to do a biopsy and all of this, and which was okay. And they says, because this looks like, cancer. And I says, it's not malignant. And they said, well, how do you know? I says, I just know it's not. And I said it like emphatically, like, that it's benign. And so thank God it was. But they wanted to go in and they wanted to do this radical surgery to remove this large tumor at the head of my pancreas there. And I said to the doctor after several conversations, I says, well, can you promise me that I will wake up after the surgery? And he looked down and says, well, I'm sorry, but no, I can't. And he says, by the way, we're going to have to damage some other good organs just to get to this tumor because of the size and because of the way it's sitting. And I says, thank you so much for that information. After he left the room, I decided to check myself out of the hospital against their will and everything. I'm not telling anyone else to do this, but I knew within myself that I had to leave that place and I had to become responsible for my own health. And so I did go back home and I began to do this process of research and cleansing because I knew about detox, I knew about fasting, and but they couldn't understand how within like a year and a half that all of this could be happening. And the point was stress. And what I want to say for you, to you, try to live a stress-free life as much as possible because it can cause all kinds of things that may be dormant in your body to come alive. Try to stay away from toxic people as much as possible because that toxicity can create all kinds of problems within you. Try to live a toxic-free life. Your mind, your emotions, your speech, your spirit. And so here I was there wondering what was going to actually happen because the report was very dire and because they sent me away because rather I left, they said, well, we cannot give you any medication to help you in case you, to thin your blood in case you have a blood clot. Because I was requesting that because they had me on blood thinner type of stuff. This is because you could have a clot in a moment, right? So they says, no, we're not giving you anything. If you're checking yourself out of the hospital, we're not giving you anything. We're not responsible for it since you're refusing medical help. And so I don't recommend this for anyone. This is my story. So I said, okay, well, I know how to maybe take an aspirin every once in a while and to keep the blood thin just in case in the process. Now let's fast forward. Okay. So I decided, okay, Father God, I'm going to fast. I'm going to fast. Now, I had never been able to go on a 21-day fast before. I wanted to. Matter of fact, I wanted to go on a 40-day fast. I knew people that had, one of my pastors a long time ago went through a 40-day and night fast while working construction. Now, that is a miracle for something like that to happen. And he was a big guy, heavy guy, but that was still a miracle for something like that to happen. I had only gotten up to say 15 days of fasting, then I break, and then I go maybe 7 or 6 days more after that. Plus, at the beginning of each year was my custom to fast, possibly 10 days, sometimes 7, sometimes 12, days and nights. That's with water, right? And so that was my custom for years, just to reset myself for that year and get clear direction for my life, for my ministry, for business, for whatever it was that I was doing, just to come into alignment with myself. So here I am. And I decided, okay, I need a 21-day and night fast. And I started to pray, how am I going to do this? And this is so crazy. It's so crazy the way the universe, the way spirit, God works, right? So a friend of mine that I hadn't talked to in probably a few months or so, he wanted to meet and also wanted to meet with another friend of mine. So we met him for lunch at this place. It was on a Saturday. I never forget it. And I remember sitting there and he looked so different because he was a big guy, and so he was telling me that he was on this fast. But he was on this master cleanse. By the way, I'll put the information in the description link there, how a master fast should go, or the recipe for it in case someone wants that. And I had done the master fast before, but I could only go maybe 3-4 days with that without becoming just maybe dehydrated or just diarrhea, because it really does cleanse you out. And plus with my diet and my weight size and stuff, I didn't have a whole lot of excess to get rid of. And so, and here he is, he's shaking up his bottle right there at the table. And so he was not going to eat. And we were going to discuss some spiritual and business stuff we were going to discuss. And he says, yeah, I've been on this fast. He says, I'm doing the master cleanse. I says, oh, I know about that. And he grabs his bottle and he begins to shake it. He did not screw it tight enough. And so I got splashed with it. And he says, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I says, no. I says, this was supposed to happen. And they both look at me like, what do you mean? I says, I have been praying about a 21-day fast. And I says, I can feel it building up that I'm supposed to do it. And I'm going to start with a master cleanse, right? And so I says, your splashing on me of your water juice and everything. I says that was like a baptism for me. That was like an anointing for me. It was like my cue in the spirit to start now. So I believe within the next day or two, I did start the 21-day fast. I know that it's crazy. That's why it's good to really just pay attention to things that are happening, because I don't believe in coincidences with anything. I believe that the Most High, some people call the universe, is always speaking through many ways. And I knew that was my cue to start. Now, no one, very, very few people knew about my condition and what I was going through. And because the Spirit had said, do not say this to anyone. Do not, specifically certain people, right? And I started that fast. And I started the master cleanse. I was only able to stay on the master cleanse, which you'll find the recipe for that in the description box. I was only able to stay on that, drinking the salt water flush and all, for maybe 3 to 4 days, and because I was just cleansing out, right, really, really fast. And I just moved on into just only water. And so, when you're fasting and stuff, if you can get past that, say, third day and stuff, you get into another space completely, because number one is whether you're doing just a water fast or the master cleanse, but especially a water fast. I'll say that when you're doing a water fast, and you get past that third day, like you really moved into a whole new state of consciousness, because your brain is being deprived of the sugars that it needs and other things, like, right? And so you move from the carnal mind, that's the way I like to put it, into a more so spiritual mindset. And you basically overcome the hunger that is in the gut, like when you get between the third and the fifth day or so of fasting, in my experience. And so you may feel hunger, but the hunger is really not because the body is hunger. It is a mental hunger. It is a psychological hunger, because your body is used to eating at certain times and certain things. And so the mind is telling you that, okay, it's time to eat, and your stomach start growling, and all kinds of things started happening. And I have broken so many fasts before because of that, whether they were short fasts or longer fasts, because I listened to my mind and my body wasn't really hungry. And afterward, I say, oh, I wish I had not just broken this fast. And sometimes I just go right back on it again, right? And that's for you that are learning to fast. Don't beat yourself up too much. I did, and I still do from time to time, because I should know better by now, right? And so I started to fast. And I was about 3 days, maybe close to 4 days with the master cleanse, and got off that and just was on water. And so one of the things that you want to do and stuff is, for me, when I get into maybe sometime even the second day and the fourth day of the fast, I'll get this burst of energy. And I feel like I can just do everything, And so I'm up cleaning, I'm organizing things, I'm doing all kinds of things, right? Because I get this burst of energy. And that's one of the reasons why over the years that I would break a fast too soon, because I'm using up all of this energy doing all of these things. And then now I'm exhausted, and now I'm really tired. I'm really hungry, and I end up eating. And so I get this burst of energy. And so by then I knew that, okay, I must, just not do everything that I feel that I have the energy to do. Another thing also that you might want to do is like limit your talking, because it requires a lot of energy, especially if you're going on a prolonged fast and you're using this energy. And I would find myself sometime on the phone, or people would just come by, and I would have to just, okay, I can't really just talk a lot right now. I didn't tell a lot of people what I was doing. And so you use a lot of energy that way. And so I've never really been big on gyms and things like that. And I do know that some people, while they are fasting, doing prolonged fast, they do work out and do things like that. I would say do it in moderation, because you're using a lot of energy that you need to maybe be reserving so that you can go further into your fast. And so most of my fasts were like spiritual fasts. I'm fasting for, so that I can connect better with the Spirit, so that I can get more clarity, so that I can hear clearer, so that I can see clearer, understand and get some direction in my life, for ministry, for things like that. That's where most of my fasting was. And But the healing aspect is just kind of like a benefit that happens with that with me. However, with this 21-day fast, the main focus was I have got to bring my body back into homeostasis. I have to bring it back into balance. I must bring it back into health. And I had to take responsibility for my body and not hand over responsibility for my body to the medical system, which there's nothing wrong with it. We thank God for it, and they have their place. But I believe that at some point that we need to be responsible. Now, in this Western culture, regarding fasting and eating, we eat too much. We're told, we're bombarded with commercials and ads and things about, that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. You got to have your breakfast. So we get up at 6, 7 o'clock, maybe 8 o'clock in the morning, and we eat this big meal, a lot of sugars and a lot of things like that, right? And then, several hours later, we're starting to eat again. And then throughout the day, we're stuffing our face, stuffing our body, and the body is not getting a chance to really process all of that which we are putting within it. And eventually it breaks down because it is constantly working. And sometimes in the middle of the night, we find ourselves getting up, almost like sleepwalking to the fridge, have a couple of scoops of ice cream. I've done it before, a slice of cake or whatever that is there. And so we're constantly stuffing. But see, breakfast is whenever you eat, whether it is at midday, 12 o'clock, or whether it is 3 o'clock in the evening, because you are breaking the fast. The nighttime when you're sleeping, the body is fasting, supposed to be fasting, right? And so to break fast or to have breakfast, it doesn't have to be at 8 o'clock. It doesn't have to be at 9 o'clock. It could be 6 o'clock in the evening. It is whenever you decide to eat, whenever your body decides to eat. Your body is high intelligence. It is infinite intelligence. It is God, if you will, that intelligence that is there, because your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. And so it has all of this information and technology in it to let you know when you need to eat and when you should not eat if we listen to it. So now I was blessed throughout this process while I was going through this challenge, physical challenge, that I wasn't in like a lot of pain or anything. There was some discomfort if I sat up straight because of the size of the tumor pressing here, and I wasn't in any pain or anything like that. So as I started to fast and got into the fast, I would say possibly around the 7th day of the fast, my mind was really going, okay, maybe I should only go 7 days and then eat something, then try another 7 days. So I had to break through that cycle, that pattern, because I'd done that many times before. So I had to break through that because that was a mental blockage, because my body knew that I had done that many times before. And so once I broke through, I was able to go on and to into, like, say, around the 14th day, I believe it was, or somewhere around the 14th or the 15th day, my youngest son had a birthday party. And I remember we were in the park and I had to carry this cooler with pop and other stuff in it and all the other stuff, because there was a lot of other kids that was a part of his party. And I literally almost passed out. It was very warm. It was in the month of April. And so I had to, not to overexert myself, right? So then I had a little episode. I had a speaking engagement, and I believe it was right around the same time, between, say, the 14th and maybe the 17th day of the fast. And we had to help bring in some equipment, and because no one knew what was really going on, and some people, knew that I was losing weight. And, it's funny how people can have their suspicions. Okay, is he sick? Is he got cancer? Is he on drugs? Or is this AIDS? Or is this, all kinds of things people will be thinking, that, because they don't really understand, right? And, Yeshua said that when you do this fasting, right, don't just go out and tell everybody about it, right? So, and matter of fact, even me sharing this is not to flex my spirituality or discipline or anything like that. It is to help someone else that may be moving toward that direction. So I'm up there speaking, right? And I'm the kind of speaker, if you've been in my meetings or anything like that, I don't just stand in one place. I'm moving around and I'm speaking from my gut, and so I'm using a lot of energy, even if I'm just teaching, right? And so finally, about maybe 30 minutes into my message, and those of you that know me, you know that I'm a little bit long-winded. By the way, you need to like this video and you need to share it, send it to a lot of people because they might need this. And so I told the people, I said, I've been on a little fast. I says, would you mind if I finish this message by sitting down? I says, because I'm feeling a little bit lightheaded. And so everybody was looking and so I sat down and finished the message. I didn't go into details what the fasting was for or anything. And I was able to finish the message. Finally, I'm getting to day, say 17, 18, 19, and I'm feeling that the fasting is ending because the body knows, and the mind knows. And so I'm feeling that the fasting is ending. And so I've just been on water doing this fast. And it's very difficult for me to drink water, even when I'm not fasting. I just can't drink a lot of water. And so I had to really force myself to stay hydrated, especially in a very warm climate where I live. And so, they say that you're supposed to drink 8 to 10 glasses of water a day. But, I did some research and I found out that that water can, create more inflammation in the body. I'm not saying anything. I'm just only telling you. You can do your own research that water can create more inflammation in the body. And so, so anyway, I'm drinking water and I get to my 21st day of the fast. At that point, I've lost probably about 24, 25 pounds. And the reason I'd lost more than that is because of my first maybe 3 to 4 days was on the master cleanse. And so I was really purging, really, getting cleaned out of a whole lot of stuff, that was hung up probably in my colons and my gut that was passing and all of that. And people don't realize that, most people, especially in the Western world, they carry around maybe 20 to 40 pounds of sludge in their colons that's waiting to become cancers or all kinds of autoimmune deficiencies and diseases that's there. And that stuff get hung up in your colons, and the only thing that's going to get that out is going to be a prolonged fast or a colonic irrigation And so that's just something to think about. And now people that are really overweight, they could have 50, 60 pounds of sludge that's there, of food that is there just becoming very toxic and creating problems already in their body. And so a fasting does that, cleanses that out. And Isaiah 58, it says this, and I'm just going to read this to you. And, it doesn't matter what type of situation it is that you may have encountered, because, in the kind of work that I do, I encounter people that have had hexes, spells, curses put on them, and all kinds of things. I have been in those situations also, and I can tell you that those things can be broken, right? There are people that are going through physical problems that could be genetically passed on, but it can be reversed through a fast. There are people that, because of their own self-eating, not properly and stuff, have created physical problems for themselves, and that can be reversed, that can be it can be healed. There are people that are going through emotional stresses and various things that's created physical problems for them and in their body. There are people that are carrying all kinds of toxicity, hatred, unforgiveness, anger, bitterness, and things that they're holding on to that's created problems in their physical body, because all of those are energetic frequencies, and they have to express themselves in some way. So they express themselves through sickness, tumors, illness, disease, arthritis, heart condition, high blood pressure, all of those things there. But a fast can totally destroy that yoke. Let me read this scripture here for you. This is in Isaiah 58. He says this, and verse 5. He says, is it such a fast that I've chosen for you, a day for a man to afflict his soul? It is to bow down his head like a bulrush and to spread sackcloth and ashes under him. By the way, I used to fast that way. I used to literally put on dark, something very, very dark and burn wood and, put up ashes. I did the whole thing. I was just out there, right? And it says under him, wilt thou call this a fast and acceptable day unto the Lord? And so if you do that with the wrong intentions and motive, no, it's not acceptable. If you're trying to do this as a spiritual ritual or as a spirit ritual, like ritual, ritual, then you put SPI, a spiritual. So it moves beyond a ritual, a tradition, into a spiritual, right? And so he says this in verse 6, is not this the fast that I've chosen, to loose the bands of wickedness and to undo the heavy burden and to let the oppressed go free, and that you break every yoke? Wow, to break every yoke. Now, I'm not going to really teach on fasting here. I'm just telling you my experience. And verse 8 here says, then if you do a fast, if you fast, then your light will break forth like the morning. Oh my God. So this is the spiritual aspect and even intellectual aspect. You will have clarity of thinking. Some people are suffering from brain fog and just mental confusion because of all the toxicity that is in their blood from the foods we eat or the thoughts that we think and the lifestyles that we have, right? And so, but he says fasting will clear all of that out. He says clarity will come as well as spiritual light or enlightenment. You will have like an awakening experience, and thine health shall spring forth speedily. What? Your health? Yes, because when you fast, when you don't eat, you really actually tap into a whole new level within your body chemistry and your body tempo. There are certain genes, groups of genes that only come on when you're not eating. They're called the sirtuin genes. Sirtuin genes. I think it's spelled Sirtuin. And they were called the silent sirtuin genes because the doctors didn't know what they were, don't know what they do. But it's a gene cluster that is there. You have about, I think, 30 to 40,000 genes in your body, in your genome, right? And so there's this cluster that they didn't know what it does because it was silent. But they noticed that when people stopped eating, they came on. And then they discovered that the silent sirtuin genes, they promoted longevity. They promoted physical health. So this word is what was written 2,800 years ago. And he says that if you would fast, he says your health would come forth speedily. Why? Because you're going to cause those sirtuin genes, the silent sirtuin genes, to come on. Now, you don't have to go 21 days for that to happen. If you go like, say, 2 or 3 days, something began to happen within your body because your body is resetting itself. It is like just, how can I say? Yeah, it is just resetting itself. A 3-day and night fast with water allows the body to basically reset itself, and it goes into what is called autophagy. Autophagy, that means that the good cells start to eat up the bad cells, begin to eat up all the white, cells that are bad, which are the defense, and it produces more of the white blood cells to defend the body, brings your immune system up because it just starts to eat. So you have this body technology here that if we eat less or, and fasted, occasionally, that you could stay healthy. Now, let me get back to my story. So we talked about autophagy, we talked about that, and there are so many other things I'll be talking about maybe in another video. What happens with a 3-day fast, what happens on my experience with a 4-day dry fast, and doing hard dry fasts and things like that, and I'm not a medical professional, so I'm not telling anybody anything. I'm only sharing my experiences. Number one, people in the Western culture think that they would almost die if they would go without eating 3 to 4 meals a day. They are literally starving, they think, right? Because we are so kind of messed up in that, and we constantly, feed the flesh, and we think we need that. Whereas you go in other cultures, it is normal to maybe not, if you don't have food 2 or 3 days, or you can't eat 2 or 3 good meals a day, like, you just keep going. And so your body will go on. You won't die. You won't starve with that. And you might say, well, what about people that starve to death? People that I've read stories of people that are maybe like some refugees and stuff. I read this many years ago that were on a ship and they hadn't eaten in like several days, and several people actually died. You know what? Fear, the emotion of fear, can create something within the body that can literally cause death. You can really just be so afraid that you're going to die that you actually die. What did Job say? The thing that I feared most happened to me. And so if you are in a good, positive, healthy space, there's no way that you're going to die. Now, if you have some underlying medical conditions and stuff that might prevent you from maybe prolonged fasting, you're going to have to like research that. And some people, when they do prolonged fasting, they go to their doctor. Of course, most doctors will tell you, don't do that, don't do that. So if you're going to talk to a physician about this, you're going to have to talk to an enlightened physician, someone that understands about the body chemistry and how it works with fasting. So I finished my 21-day fast. And it is important how you break the fast. And I must admit that I don't always break the fast the way that I'm supposed to break the fast. And my excuse is, well, I've been doing this for so long, so it's okay. Like, but you want to break the fast properly when you break the fast and stuff, especially if you've gone like 21 days and stuff. You want to start with juices like for maybe the next several days, and then your body is getting used to that. And then you can start more so with like soft foods and stuff. Those of you that may need eggs or something, like that, getting some protein in or getting some shakes and stuff. And then you can ease on into more so solid food. But try to prevent yourself from going back to, just really bad foods, really highly toxic foods and meats, especially some of the meats that no human should be eating. And so you want to just think about that, because what happens in the fast, you're going to go through some really, really powerful awakenings if you are aligning yourself like with spirit. And I'm not going to go through all of my experiences on here because I wanted to share mostly about the healing that took place. But I did have some very powerful spiritual experiences, OBE, out of the body, which was not unusual for me, but everything became heightened in that. And I believe because we are quantumly entangled, I started to get calls from people all over around the world, and that was in need. Could you pray for this? Could you pray for that? And it was like something was triggered, because I had come to a level of consciousness, or say it another way, the anointing was being released within me, and it was triggering something within people all over that felt that they had to call me and that I had to pray for them and that they would receive a healing. And there were many testimonies of that took place. And so, and I notice it happens when I'm on a fast, even when it's not prolonged, even if it's like 2 or 3 days or so, I will just start to get or run into people wherever I am. And that unconsciously they will sense something or spirit is doing this. So I went through the fast, and I knew within myself that everything was all right. It's not that I was really worried about it, because I had already told the Father, I said, I can't die. I shall live and see and declare the glory of God. Plus I got 2 kids I got to raise, 2 sons, right? And so I had already decided that. And it was months later that I went back to the clinic, and because they had wanted me to go to oncology and all of that, which, why would I go to oncology? I don't have cancer. And so they wanted to do some radiation. That was before, and stuff to get rid of that, since I didn't want the surgery. I'm going, nope. And so I went back to the clinic months later. Let me see, it had to be possibly at least 6 months or more later. I went back and I got a physical and everything, and nothing was there. Nothing was there. Where the doctor could actually, let me push this down a little bit, where the doctor could actually feel a little, lump right in there and stuff. It was not even there. And they were testing and testing. Do you feel, is this tender? No. And so they did blood tests and nothing was there. And so the 21-day fast, I was healed on that. All of the lesions that was on my kidney, my liver, all of the nodules that was throughout my chest, thoracic area, was gone. And most of all, the huge tumor that was at the head of my pancreas was gone. And that happened on a 21-day fast. So what am I saying? That if you have tried everything and if you feel within yourself that you need to try something else, you need to detox your body, your mind, your spirit, and all of that, try a fast. For some people, it may not be 21 days and nights. Some people, it could be 3 days, it could be 7 days. And for some people that if you're not used to fasting, you might have to build yourself up to that point and not just jump into a 21-day fast, just like that, unless, you really feel an unction from spirit and, supernatural things can happen and your body can do that. Otherwise, you might want to start by, if you're used to eating three meals a day, stop it. Please stop it. You don't need 3 meals a day. Cut down to maybe 2 or 1 meal a day. So you're preparing your body to get used to not eating all of that junk that you put in there. Matter of fact, it's going to be good for you. I mean, look at the price of foods, how high it's going. People in this country are going to have to learn to fast anyway for many of them because they won't be able to afford the high prices. And guess what? It's going to be good for you physically because you won't be buying all of this junk food and the stuff that we eat and how they do the meats that people eat and the other things and stuff. So you'll be detoxifying. I'm just making a joke there, but it is true, right? And so you start to prepare your body for that. Get used to not eating just 3 meals a day. Try going to like noon or something and then maybe you eat a meal. Try going to 3 o'clock, and then maybe you eat a meal. Or try maybe going to 6 o'clock, then you eat a meal, okay? And try intermittent fasting. And then you build yourself up into the way where your body is not used to just a Western way of thinking that you got to have 3 meals a day and you got to have this, you got to have that and all of that. We're bombarded with ads constantly. You're driving down the road. You're not even thinking about food, right? And then you see this ad. So you go and you buy it, right? In the middle of the night, you're like, you're watching something on the internet and all at once there's an ad about food. You get up and you go downstairs and you think you're hungry. That is, they're messing with your mind. So you break all of those different habits and triggers that are there. And then you get into that space where you can do maybe 3 days and nights of water, and maybe you might have to try with juice first, that is a partial fast, but it's better than nothing. And then you get into it with water, okay? There are some people that do what they call the Daniel fast, where they fast, say, 21 days with just eating vegetables and things like that, right? Basically vegetarianism. That's great. That's good. I've been on that most of my life, and but you get into a fast, and so you'll find things happen here as the scripture says. Verse 9 says this, verse 8, I'm going to read it again and I'm going to finish this. Then shall your light break forth like the morning, and your health shall spring forth speedily, and your righteousness shall go before you, and the glory of Yahweh shall be your rear guard. So there's a heightened spiritual awareness that takes place when you fast. Literally, there's a heightened spiritual awareness. You may not even believe in supernatural things, but something will happen within you where you will begin to tap into the supernatural, the spiritual realm. Unconsciously, it will happen because every person listening to my voice, you are a spiritual being. By the way, like this video and share it with several people, okay? So he says that, verse 9, then shall you call, and Yahweh will answer you. You will cry, and he shall say, here I am. So in other words, your prayers will get answered faster. The things that you are wanting in your life, they will come to you faster. How does this happen? Number one, the fasting is going to destroy the unbelief that's within you. Remember the story when Yeshua's disciples was trying to cast out this demon, and they had seen Yeshua do it many times, and this guy was kind of like an epileptic or something, and they were wondering why we couldn't cast this spirit out. And then Jesus came and he cast it out, and he said, well, why couldn't we do it? And he says, this kind only goes out but by fasting and prayer. Okay. And then he talks to them about he says, because of your unbelief. And so the fasting and the prayer was to get rid of the unbelief, because fasting, believe it or not, you will, when you get into that third day, you will feel like this super energy, like a Superman or something. You will just have this heightened, awareness and spirituality, feeling that you can do anything, right? And so it is like destroying the unbelief and the fear and the doubt that is within your mind, and causing you to have more clarity where you can believe and tap into who you really are, that you are a divine being. There is nothing too hard for God. There is therefore nothing too hard for you, right? And so that's what happens. And that's what you mean by then your prayers are going to be answered much faster, because now I'm no longer wondering, okay, will it happen? Won't it happen? Or doubting, whatever. But now I'm believing, and I'm not only believing, but I am knowing that it will happen. So that's my story of how I was healed on a 21-day fast. And I hope it blesses someone that's listening, whether you're wanting healing in your life, or whether you're wanting healing in your emotional life, you're wanting to detoxify from whatever it is, that may be going on within you, or draw closer to spirit, God, as we call it, all of that is available for you. And so I am praying for you that a spirit of fasting would come upon you, and that you would be able to fast, that you would be able to pray. Another thing, during that 21 days, I could not pray the way I would normally pray. It was too exhaustive, like using too much energy. So I spent a lot of time in meditating, and during that time I did do some verbal prayer, but you have to know what to do and how to do, okay, at that time. So you receive that spirit of fasting, and if you are suffering and medical science maybe can't help you, you might want to try detoxifying. And so I just give this to you in the name of Yeshua, and I pray for your healing. I pray for wholeness. I pray for complete deliverance for you in his name. Amen.